All right. So in the yesterday's session, we talked a little bit about how Power BI works, but today we'll just deep dive into the tool itself and we'll work on Power BI. So let me launch the Power BI tool, and then we'll get started with an understanding of the interface first, and then we'll move further. Okay. So let me search for Power BI Desktop, which was already installed. I hope you have installed it. If you have not installed it, I would like you to go to the Microsoft Store, okay, and search for Power BI Desktop. So let's just do that one more time. So Microsoft Store, and you can go ahead and search for Power BI Desktop and then install this application from here, okay? So if you're a Mac user, you'll have to try an alternative. You'll have to go ahead and look for some other Windows laptop where you can do this. Power BI Desktop is only meant or only created for Windows machines. It is not something that you can install in a Mac operating system. Okay. So you'll have to go ahead and either go with maybe a virtual machine on the cloud. Yes, there are a lot of cloud platforms available which gives you a free virtual machine. So set up a Windows machine and you have to install it there. Otherwise, the Mac operating system has something like Parallels and other softwares that can run Windows parallelly. So you'll have to try that if you are a Mac user. Okay, good. So let's go ahead and open this software. Okay, I'll just open it from my local desktop here. So we'll just go ahead and say Power BI Desktop. I'm going to click and open my Power BI Desktop. Okay, let's understand the interface first of all. All right, and then we will jump into the other details. So by if you have seen other Microsoft tools, it's very much similar to that. And whatever we do here is what is called as a report. So let's say you're opening a new Word document, right? Microsoft Word document, and you'll get to see new document. And if you are working with an Excel workbook, you see new worksheet or Excel workbook, something like that. And here it's all a report because we're talking about Power BI Desktop, and everything here will be called as a report. Okay. So you just have to create a report, and anything that you do in the desktop version will be called as a report. Okay. Now there is a term called as dashboard, and if you have exposure and experience with some other tools where you go and use this terminology called dashboard, we will do this later point in time in our course. And we will have to go and say, this is going to be more when you go and publish your report. Okay. So you will be going and publishing your report. And only after that, there is a concept of a dashboard coming in. So we'll talk more about it later. But for now, just remember, stick to the term called as report. Let's say you're coming and talking to me. Okay. I'm a person who knows and understands Power BI. You're talking to a Power BI person. And if you are interchanging these words, if you say, hey, I have a doubt in my report, and otherwise you say there is an issue with my dashboard, now these are going to be two different things. And I'll be thinking in a different way. I'm thinking of something else. So don't interchange these words. These words are very, very important. Anything that you do in the desktop version is only called as a report. So if you're talking about something regarding this, you have to stick to this terminology. Please don't bring in a word called as dashboard. Okay. We'll talk about dashboard when we publish our report, and that's where you can create a dashboard. So that's the way you will go and work with this information. All right. Good. So let's keep that in mind. So we'll create our first report. Let's click on that. And this will be the interface that you will get. And this is a very basic, very simple setup that we have here. Let's go ahead and understand what are all the details that we have in front of us, where will we be working, and how to go about looking at certain things in certain ways. Okay, good. Now, we talked about data. We talked about, reports. We're talking about reports right now. And Power BI Desktop is more of a reporting tool, right? We called it as a BI tool. We understood the definitions of BI and all of that, but Power BI is more of a BI tool. Okay. Now, what is important for this tool is it is important that you go and get to the data. All right. So you have to get to the data, and you use this icon to get to your data. The data can lie in different formats. The data can be coming from a PDF file, it can be a CSV file, it can be a database, it can be an Excel file, it can be different things. But you have to get to your data. You'll have to bring the data into this tool. So that's what is important for you. Now, once the data is there, the data will be loaded into this pane. Okay, so you'll have some tables and the column names coming up, a table and a column name coming up, table and a column name, so on and so forth, right? So this is what is going to happen. So you are, first of all, getting to that information that you want to load into Power BI. And once that comes up, it is going to be coming up like a table and a column name. Okay, that's what we have. All right. Now, we will just go and discuss about one important topic today, and you'll understand that, uh, the visualizations, we will not start off with visualizations right away. Okay. So we will use this, of course, and you will create these reports, but this is going to be something that we do in a later point in time. All right. So that is how it is. We will talk about this later, but visualization is something that you have to worry about as a last thing. We'll also talk about that in some time. Okay, so let it be like that. But this is our ways of working. We'll take those visuals, we'll put it into this canvas, and then we'll work with that. Okay. Now there are different panes available. So you can see this is a data pane for you. This is a visualization pane for you. This is a filters pane for you. So you will have a lot of panes that you can enable. We can call this as pane, or you can also call this as panels if you want. But these are called as panes in Power BI. So we'll just keep that way. So this is what we have. And if I go back to this view menu here, view, and what happens is there are different panes that are available. So you can see there is bookmarks pane, selection pane, performance analyzer, sync slicer. So you can turn on these panes, but I would recommend turn on these panes whenever you need them, right? So we don't need all of these panes all the time. We just will go and do that later. And that is how, we'll just kind of look at this. So if you just see the screen right now, I've got all the panes enabled, and you can see there is no canvas for me to go and build my report. Where will I go and build my report, right? So there is no canvas. The canvas is somewhere hidden, there in between. And even minimizing all of this pane will leave a little room for me to design my report, correct? So if I go and go, kind of minimize all of this, you'll see, yes, I'll get some details, but this is again still not something that we need to have all the time. We can go and remove all these panes, and we'll enable them whenever the time is right. Whenever we need them, we'll go and enable and disable them. Okay, so let's go and try that way. And that's how we'll work with those details. So for now, I'm just going to go disable everything. We may only need all the time the visualization and the data pane to be there. That's what we have. That's how it is. Okay. So let's keep all of that there, and we'll just get rid of everything else. But just letting you know that under the view menu, you have a lot of panes. We can enable or disable them just like that. Okay. We'll get to those panes after some time. We'll just work with these two panes for now. Okay, good. So these are some important areas. You'll go and work with that get data icon, a lot of other icons on top. We'll kind of get used to those different details as we progress. But this is going to be two panes that you'll use for sure all the time. And then there are some views. Okay, we have some views on this side. So we call this as views. Now, not all views are important. And the last two views are going to be very advanced views. We'll not talk about it. We will only need the first three views to be used. All right. And you're actually looking at the first view. Can you see a small highlight here? The first view is already highlighted, which means you're looking at that view. And this is nothing but the canvas that I was talking about. The canvas is what is called as a report view. Okay. So the first icon that you see here is nothing but the report view. All right. So this is what we have. You're already on that view and you're looking at that view. And these are going to be very important views for you to go and look at. So the first view is nothing but it's called as a report view. The second view is called as a table view. We'll just go and talk about that or look at that sometime soon. And the third one is called as the model view. So the report view is going to help you to build your reports, right? We just talked about having a big report with different visuals like this created. So we'll be creating a view. Table view, as the name suggests, is going to give you a tabular format of your data. We don't have any data right now. So this view is all going to be all blank. So we'll load some data and we'll see that the tabular format of the data comes up in the table view. So whatever tables you're loading, you should be able to view them in this table view. Okay. The model view will help us to go and connect two tables together so that we can take those information and put it into a single visualization or something like that. Yes. So that is the whole purpose of a model view. So this will be table one for you. This will be table two for you. And we will have a relationship built between that. This is what is called as data modeling. We'll talk more about it later. But the whole point of doing that data modeling is to take information from both the tables and put it into a visual, and that's what is going to be the way we go and work with this information. Okay, so we'll see how this all works, and we'll talk more about it. But these are the three views that we will be working for sure all the time and every single time you work with Power BI Desktop. Okay, now I told you that every single month there is a update going on in Power BI. Yes. So if you remember, I went with the YouTube channel and I said, okay, there is a Microsoft Power BI YouTube channel. And you'll see that, there is an update every single month. This is September update, August, July, June. So you have updates every single month, and there are like few features getting added. So many times every single month. And this is what is going to happen, you know, the way Power BI goes and releases its update. This is what is going to happen here, right? So a lot of updates happens and all of a sudden you'll find a new feature available. All of a sudden you'll see some changes with respect to your user interface, the screens and all that. And this can happen very commonly. And every single month there is going to be some update. So just like that, recently Microsoft has introduced these two icons. Okay. Now the first one is called as the DAX query view. Now we will not be querying anything. So this is not something that we will work on. We will work on something else called as DAX, just DAX. It's not a query that we write. We write DAX formulas. Okay. So we'll talk more about the DAX formulas later. That's what we will do. But it's not the DAX query editor that we will work with. Okay. So this is for advanced users. This is after you have written DAX expressions. And if you want to go and see what is the performance of that query, in the sense, what is the performance of the formulas, how is it working, you put that under a query view and you work with that. So this is more for advanced users to kind of look at and understand the performance of certain formulas that you have written. So we will not be working with this because this is far too ahead of what we are going to do. And I can give you a glimpse of this. I'm not saying I'll not go and show this, but this is not for us to go and learn. Okay. And what I've done in the past is I have worked with Power BI for more than 10 years now. Okay. 2014 onwards, from its beginning, from its launch, I've been looking at this tool. I've seen this tool evolve. I have seen all those updates come up. And what I feel is there is nothing else you need to go ahead and do except for the first three views. Okay. We have the report view, we have the table view, we have the model view. And I have not gone past these three views and I've not looked at any other view. This is more than enough for us to go and build a full-fledged report, publish it, and then share it with our users. You don't really need these two different things. Okay. And the last one, I don't know what the last one is. It says TMDL, and I'm yet to explore what that is. It was just recently launched a month or so ago, and I have no clue what this is. So I'm still exploring that. So there are a lot of new additions coming in for Power BI, and as a user, as a developer, yes, it is good to know what's going on. But this is also going to be more of a lot of advanced ways of working. You don't really need them. Actually, this was called as a DAX Studio. So we had a product called as DAX Studio. Okay. You can search for that online and you'll find a different application altogether. And what Microsoft has done is they took this entire product and they have integrated it into this small icon. Imagine what, you know, this is all about. So that's a different product altogether, where you're looking at some, tax queries that you can go ahead and work on. And then based on that, you can optimize Power BI's queries here. But Power BI has, Microsoft has integrated all of that together. And that's how we have it. So we are just kind of evolving with the product here. But what I would say is, you don't have to really go into these two views. Okay. So we will not talk about these two at all. If you really want it and if time permits, we'll get into that. Okay. Otherwise, we just have the report view, table view, and model view to go through. All right. Good. So this is our interface. But before we go and use this entire tool, we need to understand a few things. And I just kind of missed one slide last time, yesterday. We'll just go and cover that today, and then we'll go with this detail. Okay. Now, I would like some, chat coming up maybe, or if you can come off of mute and talk to me, that would be greatly appreciated. Okay. I'll just go and ask you some questions, and let's just go and have some, things understood here. So let's talk about this question. So if you remember from yesterday's session, we talked about traditional BI, we talked about modern BI ways of working, right? But my question today is, what is business intelligence? So we talked about BI, and now I'm just saying that BI stands for business intelligence. But more than that, I want to understand really clearly, what is a business intelligence? Can someone tell me or define business intelligence for me? Anyone? Let me know.
Hello, Ambarish. This is Dinesh. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yes, please go on.
Yeah, business intelligence basically it's like providing like easy solutions like how the data is looking like
Mm-hmm.
and what can we do with the data. How can we produce either it is a report or how to showcase the format of the data. That's what.
Okay,
Thank you.
very good. Very close. Yes, good. Okay, making business decisions easier. Okay, good. Study about data of the business. Yes, all right. Okay. What else? Anyone else wants to add some more context to these details?
Data prediction.
Data prediction. Okay. We'll see how that, kind of adds to this definition. Okay. What else? Anyone? What is business intelligence? Simple. You could have Googled by now and copy pasted the answer as well. But I want to understand, what is business intelligence? Yes, let me know. All right, good. So let's go and talk about this. There are two parts to this. I want you to understand this definition. And if you're not talking about these two things, the definition is never complete. Okay. So, what am I talking about? I'm talking about, first of all, let's just go and do this. I'm just going to draw something on the screen just before I get to the next slide where I go and define all of this. So, we are talking about something called as raw data. Okay. The data that we will have is what is called as raw data. It's not something that is in nice, good shape. And we will see as we progress, the data will never be clean. Okay. The data will have all sorts of problems. We'll have to go and rectify all those issues before we load it into Power BI. Okay. That is how the tool is all set. Okay. Or the data is all there. So we call this as raw data, and this needs a lot of cleansing. Okay. Now, what we do is, we just like that do not take this data and consume it. We have to go and move this through some different layers. We'll talk more about it later. But the whole point is to go and take this and convert into more of an insights. Okay, we'll bring some insights out of it. So let's say you have some table, some information in a table like that, and you take that and you create a chart or a graph. Let's say you put this information this way. So that's an insight for you. Okay. But what are we going to do with these insights? Why are we creating these insights? Right? Someone said making business decisions easier. So we have to go and give this input to our user, someone like, let's say I'm talking to a CEO of the company. Now, this person is capable of taking decisions, right? So we took the data, we are telling this the user, hey, this is what the data is saying, and that's what is called as insights. And this user is going to look at this information and he's going to make informed decisions. We talk about informed decisions here. Okay, so what is informed decision? Let's say there is a uh, you know profit dashboard. I'm just showing some profit by different region, different cities, different states, and different things like that. And in one of the areas, let's say in one of the warehouses, or in one of the cities or states, whatever that is, we are not performing good. Okay, let's say I invested so much in that particular area, and I've got a warehouse, I've got so many employees working in that particular environment, and I don't see any sales coming out of it. I don't see any profitability coming out of it. So what is the point of having it there, right? So this insights that we will go and build is going to talk about all of that. It's going to show all of that. And this person, the CEO of the company, or anyone who's a decision makers in the organization, will go and look at that data and make those informed decisions, right? So this is what I call, and this is two parts of this equation here. So one is going to be taking that raw data and converting that into an insight, and then sharing that with our users to help them take those informed decisions. So if you talk only about decisions, no point in calling that as a business intelligence solution. Okay. If you talk only about insights, what are you going to do with the insights if you have created them, right? So there is no point in just saying, hey, I've built an amazing report. And if you keep it with yourself, there is no point in having that report built first of all, right? So you just have to understand from that perspective. You are not going to just create a report. You have to share it with your users so that they can take those informed business decisions. Okay. So that's the two part to this particular definition. Let's going to look at this with a big diagram, and I'll kind of talk about these things before we really just go and work with our tool. Okay. Good. So what is business intelligence? Like I said, business intelligence is the process of transforming your raw data into actionable insights, and you convert this raw data into insights through some data analysis, visualization, reporting. Yes, that's what we are going to do. All right. We will do some data analysis, visualization, and reporting on that raw data that is coming in. For what purposes? This is the main, and this is the second half of this definition. You're going to do all of this because you want to help users make those informed business decisions. Okay. You're not just going to do this for the sake of it, because you're paid, because you have to build a report. No, you're doing this for a user who's going to look at it. And these are not just any users. We call them as business users, or more than that, I'll call them as decision makers. Okay. Let's call them as decision makers. So these people are going to make decisions, and this is very important. You're not going to go and showcase a report. Let's say I'm not going to take the profitability information and showcase that to an entry level candidate in my organization, right? What will a fresher do with that information? Nothing. He can't go and do anything about it. So we will go and take this to a user who will be able to take decisions out of it, right? So that's the whole point of it. So you convert that raw data into actionable insights, and you share that with your user because they will go and take those informed business decisions. Very important topic, very important detail. So if you're just talking about one half of this equation, there is no point in talking about that or calling that as a business intelligence definition. Yes. So that's what I have in the diagram here. Let's go and understand all of this and see how this really comes together. Okay. So this is the first half. This is what I say usually. All right. Have a look. So there are two parts to this equation. This entirely is going to be that first half of this definition. Okay. This is your first half. And this is going to be the second one. The second half is pretty simple. Once you created that visualization or report, you're going to share that with your users to help them take that business decisions. Okay. So that's the second half of it. But there is a lot to learn, lot to understand in the first part. Let's go and deep dive into these details and understand how this works. Okay, good. Now, I'll give you a lot of examples. I'll just go through these different blocks and we'll understand what this is really is. And then we'll talk about the data that we want to go and work on. And then we will load the data and work with that data. So let's go step by step. I don't want to push and I don't want to hurry in a lot of different ways. So let's understand these details because this is the base, this is the foundation, and we'll work with this information in Power BI. Okay, good. Now, whenever you work with data, remember, the data will never be in a single place. Okay. I'll give you a simple example. Let's say we consider Amazon as an example. Okay. We'll just go and consider Amazon for this case. And let's say Amazon as a business, it started in somewhere in 1990s. Okay. 1996 or so to be precise. So Amazon started its business, let's say in 1996. So I'm talking about this, year 1996 here. And do you really think Amazon had all the top-notch technologies with which they work today? Did they start by investing everything in the best technologies right there? Or did they start small and they just kind of evolved as they progressed? Right? So they would have started small. They did not go and invest so much because Jeff Bezos, if you have seen those old photos or videos of him, he would just, code that from his basement or someplace else, right? So that's where he was working. He had a computer, he was just coding all day and night, and then that's how Amazon got into existence. Okay, even if you look at PayPal, Elon Musk really did the same thing. He would just go and code all night and he would just give that particular detail for the day for the users to go and use that for the entire day. So that's how they kind of started all these businesses. Okay. So 1996, we're not talking about top notch technologies here. Let's say we are talking about something like a CSV file. Okay. We have a CSV file, and a CSV file is what and where they are storing all that information. So let's say this was all a .csv file. I'm just giving you an example. Okay. So Amazon was storing all of the data that they were getting in a small file, CSV file, comma separated value file. Good. Now, as they progress, let's say they are into some 2000s or something like that, 4 or 5 years later, they have evolved so much, right? Now, CSV files are going to be very, very less. Let's say they are having their presence over the entire country, United States of America, and there are 50 plus states there, 50 states. And then you'll have, all of those different data coming in, and CSV files are not enough, right? So what they would have done is they would have gone ahead and switched to a database. Now let's go and create a database. Let's go and keep all that data in a database, right? So they would have done that. Probably they moved all these files, or maybe that's still lying there as a file, and they'll just kind of get everything else into this, database. Good. Now down the line, we talk about let's say there is this cloud environment coming up, right? So we have cloud and technologies coming up, and let's say somewhere in 2010, 2012, that's when the cloud really boomed. Let's just do 2015 or 2016. Okay, so they just kind of got into the cloud technology. They started storing everything there, and this is how they have evolved. Let's just assume this. Okay, and they are just running fine with all this cloud based technologies. Now there is AI doing a lot of stuff, so they may be working with all of that. So look, that's how things are evolving. Now, let's say you want to go and um, create a report and you want to do some analysis year over year. How did we progress, and what was our growth, rate and everything? You want to do some kind of an analysis that way. What do you need now? Okay. And assume that we have not brought the data out on those different levels. We have not moved this data from year to year. We're just storing the data on different stages in different places. Okay. So what will you do? You'll have to bring the data from everywhere else. You'll have to feed it to your reporting environment. You have to create that visualization and then share that with your users. That's how it should be done. Yes or no? Yeah. So I hope you're getting my point. So the data, that's why I say the data will never line in just one format. Your organization is not going to be, you know, uh, an organization that would have started with that top-notch technologies. They'll go and use that top-notch technologies all the time. We can't say all of that. Okay. I work with a lot of databases. Work with a lot of my clients, and they have issues with just storing the data. That itself is a big issue. So they'll just go and add more layers of I would say hard drives and other things. And if that is not enough, if that is not performing well, they'll go with some other tool altogether. Let's say I started off with Oracle database. I'll go and switch to a cloud environment like a Snowflake or something like that. This is how people go and kind of switch between technologies just to make sure they're able to query the data, they're able to get to the data. Those are all very important aspects of it, right? So the data will never be in one format. Yeah. Imagine Uber, Ola, you have people kind of booking cabs every single minute or so. Even as we speak, Bangalore is one of the places where you'll see a lot of people now coming out of office and they're just trying to book the cabs here and there. Everyone is busy with all that. So there is a lot of data getting generated, and how would you go and store it, right? As the businesses evolve, as lot of orders come in, a lot of cabs and other bookings come in. You consider Zomato, Zepto, whatever that is. It's all going to be all a data generating machine today, right? Amazon, Flipkart, every e-commerce website is a data generating machine. So we can't store that in one place. So we'll have to go and distribute it maybe, or you have to collate all of that information, then gather and then work with that information. So what I'm trying to tell you here is the data will not be in a single format. It will come from different places, different format, and different time and all of that. And this is all very important for you to bring it all together and kind of work with that data. Okay. So that's our first understanding and first idea we should have. Okay. So the data will never be lying in just one place. It's not going to be so easy for you to go and get started with just connecting to one data set and then working with that data. So you will have to go and gather the data from different places. Now let's say you come up with a report and you have an amazing report here, you have all the information, it's all done, and all of a sudden your manager will come up and say, hey, there is a mapping file here. Okay, go and take this mapping file, go and include that along with your report. It's an Excel file, just work with that Excel file, take it into your report and just blend it with your existing information. So that's a new file coming in right now, and you have worked with something else before, and now there is a different file coming in. So this can all happen, and the data will never be in a single place all the time. It can be there, but I'm just saying that you'll have to collate the information from different places. That's the most important thing. Okay. So the first thing is we don't have one data source. We will have a lot of different data sources. We'll bring the data from different places. That's the main objective. Now, once you have the data from different places, how will you go and bring it all together, right? And the other point I want to make is whenever you work with data, you will always go and work with a simple process called as an ETL process. Okay. Let's go and understand what ETL is. We will deep dive into these details, and we will work with this ETL concept a lot in Power BI. Initially, when you're getting the data into Power BI, you work with this concept. Okay. Now, what is ETL? ETL stands for extract, transform, and load. That's the simplest format, right? Extract, transform, and load. So, what is extraction? It's pretty clear, pretty simple. You are trying to pull the data. You're trying to get to the data. You're getting the data. You're extracting the data. So that is our extraction process. Yes. And then we have the loading mechanism. You load that to someplace else. It can be a database here. It can be data warehouse. I'll talk about data warehouses later. But this is a database, maybe a data warehouse. Or if you remember, we talked about the compressed versions of the file yesterday. We talked about getting that stored in RAM and all of that, the in-memory concept. So the storage can be anything. The loading mechanism can be anything, and any place can be used as a loading, you know, place, and you can just store it in a database, in a random access memory, like a compressed file, a data warehouse, blah blah blah. It just goes on and on. So the two terms here is pretty straightforward. Extraction means you're pulling the data. Loading means you're pushing the data to some place else, like a database or something like that. Simple. Yes, that's pretty straightforward and simple words and definitions there, right? Let's talk about transformation. And this is what you do, 80 to 90% of the time when you work with your data, you work with transformation most of the time. All right. And this is what we will do in Power BI as well. So, like I said, the data that you go and connect to is never clean. And you will have to go and clean that data. We call this process as data cleansing. But in this term, we call this as transformation. You go and apply a lot of transformation. You go and shape your data. You structure your data. You make it clean enough to be taken forward. So you're going to take this forward, let's say, to the visualization phase. And you need to have a good, nice data set to work with, right? So you cannot just like that dump the data, the raw data. I talked about raw data here. So the raw data means you're not just going to use it. So imagine vegetables, right? You call this as raw vegetables. Will you go and eat it just like that? No. You'll have to process it. You'll have to go and convert that into something eatable, right? So you'll have to go and peel off those skins and then go and wash it thoroughly. And then you have to go and kind of make a vegetable out of it, whatever that is, some gravy out of it, and then you go and use it. So it's not ready to consume right away. So the data that comes in is not going to be consumable right away. So you'll have to go and shape it. You'll have to go and, kind of transform it in such a fashion that it is easy to consume later point in time in those later stages of visualizations and whatnot. Okay, good. Let me give you an example here. So, what is transformation? Let's go and understand that in detail. Let's say, for example, we have a population data coming in. Okay, I'm loading the population data, and there is a column called as gender column. And in that gender column, let's say we have all zeros and ones, some zeros, some ones, and all of that, right? So this is what the data is all about. We have zeros and ones in this. Let's say you take this information and you come up with a chart and graph. You say, hey, this is zero, this is one, and this is the count of zero, this is the count of one. What are we saying here? This is the gender column. I call this as gender column. And you're just counting the zeros and ones here. You go and give this to your business user. What's the first question that is going to come to you? What is this user going to ask you? He'll simply ask you, what is the zero? What is one? Yes. They'll come back and say, hey, give me the meaning of zero and one. What does zero represent? What does one represent? I don't know. Right. So you cannot just like that take this information, go through the visualization phase, put it like that simply, and just pass it over to your user. No, we will have to add some meaning to it, right? So let's say 0 stands for male and 1 stands for female, just so that we got and understand this better. So we have to derive a column where I'm just going to mention all zeros as male and I'm going to derive all ones as female, right? So I'm just going to do that way. And then what happens is you will be able to go and change this. Let's say we'll do this as male and we'll convert this into female. Now this chart is more meaningful. And if I share this with my user, yes, he's able to understand, he's able to go and make some decisions out of this. He's able to at least kind of look at it and say, yes, I understand the count. I understand my users or demographic details here. So these are all going to be very important for you to go and look at. Getting my point? So that's our transformation phase. So what are we doing here? We are adding more meaning to our data set, correct? So we have this information, we are adding more meaning to this data set, and that is what is called as transformation. So transformation can be anything. It can be something like deleting a column, some unwanted columns. Let's say you have 200 columns in a table, but you're hardly going to use 5 columns out of it. Will you be loading 200 columns? No. I'm just going to use 5 columns out of it. So I'll just go and remove unnecessary columns. I probably would just select, if I'm writing a query, SQL query, I'll just select a few columns and then load that way. Or I would rather just load everything and then get rid of the 195 columns because I don't need them. And those are called as transformations. So adding some rows, which is going to add meaning to your data set, removing some columns, adding more derivations, and a lot of those changes that you're doing. So anything and everything that you do with the data that is coming in. So let's say I'm taking some information here. You're making some changes. Those are all called as transformations. Okay. And then you're loading the data. It's a simple, straightforward process. So extraction, very simple, straightforward. Loading, simple and straightforward. But transformation is where you spend a lot of time. And that part of that information is what we call as data cleansing, data shaping, People call this as data massaging. Yes, they do manipulate the data in some way that they'll be able to go and take it forward and then work with it. Okay. So we'll spend a good amount of time on the transformation techniques in Power BI. So we'll just go and spend like about 3 to 4 sessions. It's all coming up after, I would say, 2 more sessions. Okay. So that's how I'll go and spend some time with transformation techniques. 3 to 4 sessions is what we will go and deal with. And there are a lot of things that you need to understand. You have to shape your data, cleanse your data, join information. Two tables can be joined together. You can concatenate two informations. A lot of things can be done. And all of that is going to be called as transformation. Yeah, clear? Okay, I'm going to take a pause here. We just finished this part and this part. Any questions so far? Anyone? Let me know. Anyone has any questions on whatever I've covered so far, from anything that I've covered yesterday? It's all okay. You can ask me those questions. Let me know.
Hi, Ambrish. I just had a quick one from
Mhm.
yesterday's
Yes, please.
session. No, yeah, actually, maybe you'll explain it in the later sessions, but out of curiosity, I'm asking.
Yep.
So, for example, okay, let me take a table called employee or something with 10 million rows in the table.
Mm-hmm.
So, if I want to take it into the Power BI, the blank report that you showed us yesterday, like to get the data into the report,
Mm-hmm.
instead of taking a 10 million, maybe to plug and play with the sample data, can we have an option like to take the first 10 records or to take any random 100 records or 1000 records, something like that? Do you have that mechanism in Power BI?
I mean, there is no direct mechanism because in a lot of other tools, you will get to see, sample
Sample
data,
data.
or you can check some
Yes,
boxes. You can take it
yes,
forward. I've seen that in ClickView, and in
yes.
Tableau also, you can take just 1,000 records and move it forward. We don't
Yeah.
have a straightforward mechanism here, but what you can do is if it is a database, I can always say select top 100 or select top 1,000
O-
rows, from the query that we use here. So we may be able to
Okay.
do it that kind of a way, but we don't have a
Okay.
limitation that we can
Limitation on
restrict.
the tool itself while we are
Right, right.
trying to load the data.
There are
Okay.
ways. I
Got
mean,
it.
you have to
O-
connect to the data. You have to bring full data first, and then you have to
Okay.
limit it. Okay. So in
Okay.
in transformation technique, what
Technique.
we
Yes.
should be able to do is, yes, we will. Give me 1 minute. Okay, so we will be able to limit the data. Let's say I add a row ID. Okay, I just have a
Mm-hmm.
sequential number added, and then we can
Okay.
filter out the data saying less than 100 or
First
1,000 or
100.
whatever that is.
Yes.
So
Okay.
that is a possibility, but we won't be able
Okay.
to do this directly on the
Okay.
data that
From
is
the
coming in.
okay.
Yeah.
Just I'm asking to save the what do you say pressure on the RAM. You
Right,
see.
understood, understood.
So
Clear.
so that's
Yes.
the reason I'm asked. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. If it is a query, like I said, select staff from, instead of that, you can say select top 100 or top 1,000 rows. That's a possibility. Or transformation technique will do. But yes, those are the drawbacks that we have, some gaps we have in our tool. Yes, good point. All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else, anyone? Yeah. Okay, good. Let's move on then. Yeah. All right. Now, why do I have a data warehouse in the picture here, right? Now, what will happen in a lot of cases is that, and I gave you the example of Amazon, I talked about CSV files, I talked about databases, I talked about cloud platforms, right? So when you go and look at enterprise level data, production data, what happens is you may want to keep everything in one place. Okay. So we call this data warehouse as a single source of truth. Why? Because what we will do is we will bring all the data, the CSV file into this. We'll go and bring in the database. We'll go and bring in the cloud systems information into this, and we'll keep it all in one place. And that's the reason we call this a single source of truth. You just have to connect to data warehouse. You don't have to connect to a CSV file to look at that part of the information. You don't have to connect to a database to look at that part of the information. You don't have to connect to that cloud environment to look at that information. So all you have to do is just get into this data warehouse, and that will have what? The data warehouse usually is going to be a historical snapshot of the data, plus any transaction that will happen in the future tomorrow that will also be brought into this data warehouse. Okay. So the reason I'm just bringing this up here, and whenever you work with BI tool, usually there is a data warehouse in place, and that's when we go and have the BI concept brought in. Okay, so you will load the data into one place called as data warehouse, and then you start looking at the data. Okay, so that's the reason I have it as a first thing here. So data warehouse is there in the picture because of that reason. One, and what people do usually, I'm talking about connecting to different data sources. I'm talking about the ETL stuff here. So we'll have to go and extract, transform, and load. Yes, you will all be doing it. If you don't have a data warehouse, you'll go and connect to all these data sources. You do an extract, transform, and load. You skip this process and you go to the visualization phase. Okay. So there is no data warehouse, let's assume, in your environment. And what happens is you're just doing this data connection, doing the ETL stuff, and jumping right into the visualization phase. Right. But sometimes, and in a lot of different cases, 90% of the time, this part of this entire process is all done for you. Okay. So there is an ETL team. Let's say, for example, we call this as data team, ETL team, whatever that is. You call them with many names. Okay. Data engineering team and all of that. There is a different name to this team. So this team is going to be looking at all the data sources. They would have already done an ETL for you. They would have loaded that information into the data warehouse, and it is all ready to consume. So your data lies in this data warehouse, and all you have to do is just take that information and start building your reports. Okay. So this is how sometimes when you go and work with some nice, good organization, let's say you're working on Infosys or TCS, there are going to be a lot of different teams. Okay. And if you work in a startup, you'll have to do everything for yourself. Okay. But if you work in a top MNCs out there, and if they have a good, nice process, good, nice people, and processes in place, they will have different teams that is doing dedicated jobs in their environment. Okay. So, like I said, the data engineering team would have already brought this data and put that into a data warehouse. So, there is a separate team for that. And then your job is just to do that plug and play. So, you'll just take that data, you'll just kind of use that into your visualization, share that with your users. Very simple process. Okay. So for that reason, we will have data warehouse. And like I said, people would have already done this part for you. They would have taken all that data, loaded it here, and that's where the data lies. And you start connecting to the data set. Okay, that's one reason of looking at it. The second reason that I have data warehouse here, and I'm not talking about databases, I'm not talking about anything else here, is from this data warehouse comes a lot of definitions. And those definitions form, again, the foundation of your business intelligence tool. So we will go and learn about certain definitions. And again, let's go slow a little bit. Like I said, I'll have to go and define a lot of things. I have to talk a lot of things before I can jump into the tool and really start working on the data. Okay, that's an interesting part. I know that you guys are eager for that, but we'll have to understand the foundation first, right? So from data warehouse comes a lot of definitions called as, let's just do this definition called dimensions. You have to understand what is a dimension. You'll have to understand what is a measure. We also call this as fact. And these fact information all comes from the data warehouse. You go and do something called as data modeling. Okay, we call this as data modeling. And this, from a data warehouse perspective, will be called as dimensional modeling. Okay, so you'll have to go and learn a lot of techniques, a lot of definitions, and these are the definitions, or I would say these are the important details that a visualization tool will use as its foundation. Okay, so we are talking about model view. Yes, where is that coming from? It's coming because you have a data model behind the scene, you have a dimensional model behind the scene that comes into your report, that comes into your environment, and you're building a data model view. Okay. So these concepts are very important and they come from this data warehouse. Okay. A dimension or a fact. That is how your data will be stored by your tool. So if you don't understand what is a dimension, and if you don't understand what's a measure, and let's say the tool is making the mistake, yeah, it's just a machine, just a tool. It was created for certain purposes by us, human beings. So we have to be superior than that tool, right? And we have to think, we will have to interfere and say, hey, Power BI, you're doing this wrong. This is not a measure. Let's convert that to a dimension. So I have to go and tell all that to my tool. Okay. So we'll have to be more knowledgeable than the tool itself. So we'll have to understand these concepts. If you're clear with these concepts, you will be able to go and interfere and say or modify certain things here and there so that the tool, even if it makes mistakes, you will be able to rectify it. Okay. This is very important. I'll just start off with this today and then we'll just see how this goes. Okay. Clear? So this is again, the data warehouse is there in the picture for some reason, okay? And I could have just had that random access memory stuff, and we talked about the in-memory concept and all of that. I could have just had it here, but that's not the point. I'm talking about a realistic environment where you won't be storing everything in the memory right away. Yes, where is that going to be stored otherwise? It's just like, you know, you can't store things in the air just like that. So the random access memory concept is for Power BI to generate and create and work with that information. It's not something that I can use just like that to store the data, right? So the data will be stored in databases, data warehouses, and there are concepts around it. And those concepts become the base for your tools to go and kind of consume. Okay. We'll get into those details as we progress, but I'm just letting you know. And have you ever heard of this term called as DAX? You should have heard of about it. Yes. So there is also DAX that we will have to work on, right? So before you can get through all of this and get to this visualization phase, we are doing a lot of things. Okay. So you cannot just like that jump right into the visualization phase. What did I tell you when I was going through this uh, tool? The visualization is something that we will go and work on as a last thing. Visualization is the last part that we will worry about. That's what is kind of evident from this diagram, right? So I told you that this is our first phase. This entirely is going to be our first phase. And this is where we convert our raw data into that meaningful insights. But the visualization is the last thing that you want to worry about. Okay. Remember my gender example here. So let's say I just have this zeros and ones here. I go and start visualizing this information right away. What will happen? Zeros and ones. I go and do a sum, details like that. I share that with my user. If you just start right into this visualization process, you'll have to go back to this transformation phase. Yes. You have to transform. You have to say this is male, this is female, so on and so forth. You have to change all of this definition again. So there is a lot of back and forth happening if you don't go through this particular process in a proper way. All right. I hope you're getting my point, right? There is a process, there is a step-by-step process that you have to follow. If you're jumping right into that last phase, which is, I would say, this is the, you know, climax phase. This is uh the conclusion phase of this process. You cannot jump right into the conclusion phase and then start from there. Then you'll have to go back to your transformation phase, come back with all the changes. You have to make those changes. And there is a lot of back and forth going on here this way. Okay. So for that reason, please don't just start with visualizations right away. I've seen a lot of other trainers, I go and attend a lot of classes. I go and kind of look at some other people, train people on certain things. They just connect to the data and they start off with visualization. We will not do that. Okay. And I probably, you may have attended my sessions, the demos and other things. I want to do things right. And we want to take it forward in such a fashion that we are going through the process step by step. Like I said, your data will never be clean. So you'll have to go and transform your data. We'll have to focus on that first. The data may be already there in a data warehouse. We may be connecting to that. We have definitions around it. We'll have to learn those definitions. And then we jump into the visualization phase. We'll go and work on that phase. And probably before that, we'll work on something called as DAX. It's all very important to touch on these different topics before you can start off with visualization. I'm not here to just teach you how to use this tool. That's pretty simple, straightforward. I can do that in one session, but I want you to learn those basics, foundation concepts, and then we will go and take it slowly into those different levels. Okay. So, yeah, it's going to be a very big learning process. You have a lot of things here, small details, but they pay kind of, great importance. They play a very good importance in the later stage to come. Okay. So we'll just learn that way. Okay, good. So this is pretty simple. Again, I've just talked about all of this. And finally, you just go ahead and create a report. Now, don't worry about visualization. Visualization is the easiest thing to do. Okay. Yes, you'll have to understand what charts and graphs to go ahead and use in what cases. We'll talk more about it. But this is one of the easiest things to do in our entire process. And once you're done with that, you share this report with your users. So you go and share that through a server and all of that. So we'll talk more about it, and I'll give you all the details that you need. So this is the entire process of BI. So you start from the raw data, you do the ETL stuff. If you already have this data in a data warehouse, you connect to it, you consume it. Otherwise, we'll go and store that in the random access memory. You go and start using that, and then you go and share that report and consume, or your users consume those reports. That's it. Seems easy, but it's a step-by-step process that we will go and learn. You'll understand how detailed it can be and how much you go and put in efforts that way. That's how we go and work with this detail. Okay, good. Fantastic. So that's what I have on the business intelligence side. This is one of the definitions that we wanted to learn, and that's how we have it. Okay. All right, I'm just gonna go say, let me just do a check, time check. Okay, I'll take another 10-15 minutes just to explain you something, and then probably we'll load and connect to the data from tomorrow onwards and work with this detail. Okay, so just for today, again, let's go and learn something very important. Right, let me go and share or open a data set here, and this is just a sample data set that I have. I'll share this data set with you after the end of the session, but let's go and talk about this. Okay. I have a sample data. Okay, let's go ahead and go to that. I'll just go with, give me 1 second, guys. All right, sample superstores. This is my data set. I'll just open this data set. And this is a sample data. It's a sales data set. I'll not give you too many details here, but you can consider this as Amazon's data set. Okay, we'll just quickly go through this data set. And then we will also talk about two definitions. I want you to get this definition right, because your tool will go and look at the data in this fashion. And if the tool makes mistakes, like I said, you'll have to pitch in. You'll have to say, hey, Power BI, this is wrong. You'll have to convert it into this one. Okay. So this is how we go and work with our tool. You have to look for these different details. And if you don't get it right, it may cause problems as you go and use it in different ways. Okay. We'll talk more about it later. Okay. What is this data set? This data set is called as a sample superstores data set. I'll give you this and I'll show you how to work with this data later. Okay. That is what we have. Now, like I said, this is a sales data. So if I just scroll towards the right hand side, we have this sales, quantity, discount, and profit going on. We are selling some products in our store. Okay. That's what is getting listed here. So products, sales for that particular product, quantity, discount, and profit. So all of those important metrics are all here. Okay. And we have other details, like we have the customer level information, we have the segments of products being sold, consumer product or home office, whatnot. We have the geography in which this is getting sold and all of that. So a lot of different details here, some main category, subcategory, so on and so forth. So this is how the data is all set up. Okay. Now, let's imagine Amazon, right? It's an e-commerce website. And let's assume this is also an e-commerce website. Okay, we have the orders coming in. We have the order, the date on which the order was placed, that date available, the shipping date available, shipping mode available, so on and so forth. So all of this is here. Now, let's assume this is very similar to our Amazon Superstore. Okay. And if there are orders coming in, there is obviously returns associated with our e-commerce website, right? So there is a sheet called as returns here. There are different sheets, 3 sheets available here. But if there is an order coming in, if there is a purchase happening from the customer side, we also have the returns happening, yes, from the customer side. Because some people do not like the product the way it was received. It was a damaged good, they could return it. It was not the exact product they ordered, so they would return it. So it can happen for a lot of different reasons, but there are returns happening in this. One of the biggest e-commerce giant will also have returns. Amazon will have returns. Yes. Good. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to the return sheet. And what you'll find is there are orders that got returned. Okay. So we have the orders list here, the list of order IDs. Yes, there are some duplicates. We'll talk more about it later. But we have some orders here. Look at this. This is about 10,000 odd rows that we have. Now, out of that, we have about 300 orders coming back. Okay. So 300 times those products were returned, and that's what I'm seeing here. So that's how it is, right? So Amazon will not have all the orders coming back. They would have successfully delivered a lot of goods, a lot of products, but not every order comes back. So this is how you have to look at it. So there is a returns sheet. And what we have here is we have the list of orders, that only got returned. So if there was like 100 products that you sold, and out of that only one got returned, I'm just marking this with an yes flag. Okay, we're just doing that yes flag for that. And the rest of the orders are all kind of there in the orders table. It was successfully delivered. We are not capturing that under the returns sheet here. Yes. So why am I explaining all of this to you? Because you have to know your data. Okay. Understanding your data is important. We will go through this data set. We'll work with this data set later point in time. I'll give you different scenarios with the same simple data set that we have. And we'll work with a lot of information. Okay. So this is important for you. Understanding your data, having your data in your fingertips, what columns are there, what information is there. I want you to be thorough with your data. Okay. When you work in a project, you have to be thorough with that data set. Let's say your client is talking about something and that information is not there in your table. You can very well say, hey, that's not possible. And we don't have that information right now in the table. We have to source it from someplace else. We'll have to bring that data from someplace else. You can go and talk from that perspective rather than just, nodding your head, then going back and saying, oh, that data is not there. And then you'll have to go back to your client and say, hey, that data is not available. And that is okay to go and do, but if you are thorough with your data, and if you just right away upfront say that, hey, that information is not available, we won't be able to bring that in our report, then we can do something about it right on the call, right? I mean, we can think about other directions to take and bring the data. So that's how you have to be, I would say, proactive rather than reactive. Yes. So just be always proactive and don't be reactive. You have to just be having all of this in your fingertips. Good. Okay. So we have the order sheet here where we have a lot of orders coming in. We have returns where we have captured the returned products, returned orders. And then there is a people sheet, very simple sheet, where we have the different region and the manager's information available here. Okay. So if you look at the orders sheet here, you'll find something called as a region column. Now, if you want to understand who's the region for the southern region, yeah, who's the, sorry, manager for the southern region, you'll have to go to your people sheet and just talk about or just look for that southern region. And that's Cassandra Brandau for you. Yes. So that's how we go and get to that. We call this as joining the information together, looking up the information together. We'll do all of that in our Power BI file. So I'll use this particular data set a lot, and I'm just kind of giving you this information. Okay, good. We'll talk about loading this data tomorrow, but I want to go ahead and discuss about two simple definitions and then we'll wrap up the session. Okay, give me another 10 minutes or so. It should be easy and it should be interesting for you to go ahead and note this. Okay, let's go to our order sheet. Okay, so you just understood what this data is all about. This is sales data, some product information, some different details about customer, geography, category, segment, a lot of that. And this is what we have, right? Good. Now, here is what I'm going to tell you now. Okay, let's just zoom out a little bit. Okay, this is our raw data. You see this? This is whole list of information that we have. And no human being can digest this. Okay, this is just 10,000 rows. Will you be able to give me a very simple idea if I ask you, okay, what is the total sales for California? California is here, bunch of options. California may be down below. Can you go ahead and tell me, just by looking at this information, what is the total sales for, this is the sales column, what is total sales for California? No. You probably may need to go and do a pivot on top of this if you're doing this in Excel, or you may be doing some visualizations in Power BI. So you have to get to that information by a different mechanism. And you cannot just like that, scroll through this information, just look at it from your naked eye and then understand this is the value. No, you can't do that. So we need to get to that information. But what I'm trying to tell you before even getting to that information is your data that you're looking at, the data that you have, has two information in it, two I would say, things, two kinds of information inside it. Okay. The very first information that you have is what is called as a dimension. Okay. So we have some information that will be categorized as a dimension, and we'll call certain things as measure. Okay. So these are going to be two important definitions that I want you to keep in mind forever. And I'm going to discuss this in a simple way possible so that you remember this forever. Okay. This is no definition that I'll go and share. I'll just go and tell you what is what, and you will forever remember this. Okay. So in your entire data set, in this entire data set, you have something called as dimension and you have something called as measure. Okay. There can be more dimensions, more than one dimension. There can be more than one measure. Okay. That's how it is. So there are dimensions and measures in your data set. And this is how your tool is going to look at your data. When you load it into your tool, a lot of tools categorize this as dimensions and measures separately, but you'll see something else happening in Power BI. So we'll talk more about it, but these are the two important details, important information or categorization of data within your data sets. Okay. This is the only thing that you have to note. Okay. There is no third category here, just dimension or a measure. All right. Let's go and see what is what. Let's start off with dimensions. What is a dimension? Now look at any field here. All right, let's just go ahead and look at some of these fields. I'm just going to zoom out a little bit. Okay. Let's go back to the very top. Okay. Now let's look at this information, the ship mode. Okay. Let's look at ship mode here. Or look at customer name, segmentation, country, city, blah, blah, blah. The columns that I'm highlighting here is all what? These are all descriptive values. Can I say that? These are all text values. These are all categorical information. You can classify your data based on this, right? You're talking about country. So I'm just looking at country-wise sales. Let's say state-wise sales. So we are able to classify the data, right? And more importantly, you don't have to go into that level of detail. What I'm saying is, if it is a text in nature, if it is a descriptive field like this, it's not a number field, it's not a numerical field, it's a descriptive field, then it is a dimension. Okay, just a simple definition, and look at it, how simple it is. D for description, D for dimension. Okay, that's how I keep it simple. So if you are talking about any descriptive field here, anything of text in nature, any columns that you can use to classify or qualify your data, later point in time, we'll understand all of those things. But anything descriptive here, all of these columns that I'm just highlighting here is all descriptive. Region, yes, on the right hand side. So all of this is descriptive, yes. Category here, okay, subcategory, so on and so forth. So you can see that all of these columns that I've highlighted is a text field, descriptive field, and that is what I'm calling as a dimension. Okay, clear? So I'm just going to do this very simply here. On the right hand side, I'll just go ahead and make a note of something. Let's go ahead and say, I'll just go ahead and say this is dimension for us, and this is measure for us. Okay, we'll go ahead and define these two terms called as dimensions and measures. Oops. Okay. And dimension, what did I say? Anything descriptive in nature. Okay. Anything of a categorical in nature. Anything that is of a text value. All of this is going to be called as a dimension, right? So simple. I'm not going by any bookish definition. Just look at your data, and if it is of a text nature, it is all going to be dimensions. Okay, good. Let's talk about few fields here. Have a look at this field, customer ID, order ID. There is one more on the right hand side. What is it? The product ID. Okay. So what is this? This is all alphanumerical value, right? So these are all alphanumerical values here. Now, what do you think? Let's consider Excel for this case. What do you think Excel is going to treat this as? You have alphabets, you have numbers. What will Excel do with this data? Can someone tell me? Is it going to be treated as numbers or is it going to be treated as text? What is it? You can put that on the chat. If you're not comfortable speaking, that's fine. Put that on the chat. I will be seeing that all the time. What is it? Is it a alphabet or a text field that it is going to go ahead and consider, or it will consider this as a number field? What do you think? Text. Okay, good. Everyone says text. Yes. It cannot be numbers because you cannot validate these as numbers or kind of store that as numbers. So obviously the numbers will be converted into text. So it will all whole in the whole become a text field. So usually these tools will convert alphanumerical values as text values. And what did I say? If there is anything that is of text in nature, what is it? It's all dimension. So the order ID, the customer ID, the product ID, where you have alphanumerical values, they'll also be called as dimensions. Getting my point? So let's categorize this now. Order ID, ship mode, customer ID, customer name, segment, country, city, state, all of this is all going to be dimensions for you. Getting it? Yes. So all of those text values plus the alphanumerical values are all going to be dimensions for you. Good. Fantastic. Yes. So that's all dimensions for us. We'll come back to the dimension definition one more time. We'll have to revisit this for a lot of different cases, but this is what I want to kind of highlight for the first time. Okay. So anything text in nature and anything alphanumerical values like this, ID columns and all of that is all going to be dimension for you. Okay, good. Now let's talk about the measures. Okay, what is a measure? Measure is nothing but any measurable values that you have in your data set. And the definition can't be so easy. So let's go and make this a little complicated. Now, what I talk about whenever I talk about a measure is let's go and consider, sales as a value, right? We are saying that it's a measure. Okay. And just by looking at the numbers, you can't just say measure. Yes, it's a measurable value. You can go and do some aggregation on top of it. You can do all of that. But I'm going to give you two rules. Okay. I'm going to introduce you to a word called as illusion. Okay. And a mirage. Yes. Have you heard of these terms? Someone is walking in a desert, or you go on a road on a very sunny day. Sun is just scorching like anything, and then you see some water like pattern in the road. Yes, have you seen that? Yeah, we call that as mirage. In desert and all, it happens. Someone is walking in the desert, traveling in the desert. They feel that there is water there. Okay, they go and travel towards that water. There is nothing like that, just a mirage. Okay, so I want you to understand this for the measures. Whenever you look at a number, whenever you look at these columns like this numerical values, right? So we have sales, we have quantity, we have discount, we have profit. All of this is looking like a number. Very good. But remember, these numbers can be deceiving. It can be like an illusion, it can be a mirage. And you'll have to kind of segregate it, categorize it in a proper way that you call that as a measure. Okay. So you have to clearly define measures as measures. And this is why I said your tools are going to make mistake. Your tool will treat a column, a number column, just like that as a measure. So you as a human being, you'll have to interfere and say, hey, Power BI, this is not a measure. If it is not a measure, what is it? If something is not a measure, you have to only classify that as a dimension. Getting my point? So there can be only two things in your data set, either dimension or a measure. Sometimes, like I said, this is an illusion and mirage that gets created whenever you work with measures or look at a column. It cannot be a measure. And then you'll have to call that as a dimension. So that's the illusion that these numbers create. So you have to be very careful for that. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll give you two rules. I'm going to give you two rules, 1 and 2. Now, most of the time, what happens is rule 2 will fail. Okay, rule 2 will fail. And when the rule 2 fails, you cannot classify that as a measure. Both of the rules are to be satisfied. If one of these rules fail, and most of the time, like I said, rule 2 will fail. And if rule 2 fails, you cannot classify that as a measure. What will you do? You'll have to call that as a dimension. Okay. So let's talk about these rules. Very important again. A lot of times we make mistakes here. So just observe and understand this small definitions, small details. I'm just kind of giving you more details so that you don't make mistakes. All right. So let's just try this way. Okay. Have a look. So I'm going to click on this one. Let's go and go with the first rule. What is the first rule? The first rule says you're looking at some column which is of number format. What is this? Sales is more like a decimal value, right? Look at your quantity. Quantity is a whole number, an integer, I can say, right? So we have a whole number going on, decimal value, decimal value. So it can be like this. So you're looking at a column which is of some number format. So I'm just going to say you're looking at a numerical value. Okay, numerical value. Okay, it can be decimal, it can be a number, a whole number. I'm just going to say, and it can be an integer, it can be a percentage value, it can be anything of that sort. Okay, so you can just have any number of values or any kind of values there, but it's a numerical value that you're looking at. Now don't decide right away. Like I said, it's a mirage. It's a illusion. So just like that, looking at a column, and don't call that as a measure. The definition does not end here, right? So I'm going to give you the second definition or second part of this definition, which is going to confirm that it's a measure. All right. What I want you to do is I want you to go and apply a sum function on top of this. Very simple. Go and apply a sum on top of this. I'm going to do the sum of sales. Let's say I'm going to add all of these values. Okay, I'm going to do a sum on top of all of that. Yes, not so good handwriting. But let's say I do a sum of that, and let's say I get some value. Okay, I just get some value like, let's say 2.3 million. That's what you'll get in this particular case. Okay, so 2.3 million in total sales. That's what I'm getting. Now, the question here is, when I sum the information, when I sum all of these values, the 2.3 million sales, the total sales that I got, is this a meaningful result or not? What do you think, everyone? Just please say, is this meaningful? Am I writing that spelling correctly? Yes. Meaningful? Yes or no? Let me know. Please don't draw on my screen, please. Yeah. What do you think? Is this 2.3 million sales a meaningful value? Yes, everyone agrees. Yeah. So I add all my sales values and I say, hey, I'm getting 2.3 million in sales. And that's a meaningful result because it tells me the total amount of sales that I've made so far. Correct? It may be 1 year's data, 2 years data, 10 years data, 25 years data, no matter what that is. But all of that added together, you get a big number. And that big number is telling you that, yes, it's a meaningful result. And that is making sense. Yes or no? So that's the validation that I want you to do. I want you to make sure that you add a sum function to that. And this is going to be a meaningful result that you go and get to. So this is very important. Okay. So what is the second rule that I'm saying? You are going to apply a sum function on top of a column. It can look like a number column. Yes, but don't get deceived by that right away. You have to go and apply a sum function on top of it. And whether you're getting the meaningful result or not, that's what you have to look for. Okay. You just don't apply the sum function and leave it there. No, you have to say and think whether the results are meaningful. Okay. What is quantity now? Quantity, go and add all the quantities. Is it going to give me a meaningful result? Let's say I get 18,000 total products sold, 18,000 of total products. Is it a meaningful value? Yes. It is telling me about, the total sales that we have done. So, sorry, the total quantities sold so far. And it is 18,000 of different products sold. And that's a meaningful result. Yes. Everyone agrees. Everyone getting my point, right? If I go and do a total of discount, some total of discount, that's going to give me the total discount that I've given, which is a meaningful result. Yes or no? The profit, if I add all of this profit information, it's going to give me what? A meaningful result. Why? Because I'll get to the total profit that I made. Some big numbers, yes. Let's say 118,000, something like that. And that's going to be the total profit that I made. Okay. So those are all meaningful results. So I'm looking at these columns here. These are all called as measures because one, they are numeric in nature. Two, they are aggregatable. And I want you to just apply sum. Please don't go with anything else. Okay. Please don't go and create this as count or min or max or anything of that sort. Other functions will give you meaningful results. Count of any column will give you the result. Yes or no? Can you not go and count your customers? Let's say you have customer name. Count of customer column will give you the data, will give you the details. That's a meaningful results. But I don't want you to go and do that on a number column. What I'm trying to tell you here is just apply the sum function, and I want you to understand whether the results are meaningful or not. And you'll understand what I mean by meaningful as you go and work on two more columns. I'm going to give you some examples, and you'll understand that it may not be meaningful in that case. Okay. So this is what you should do. Only apply some function on top of it. You're looking at a number, you're summing all these values. That's it. And you just have to check whether the result is a meaningful value or not. So if that is a numerical column, and if the sum is giving you a meaningful result, you'll classify that as a measure. Okay. But like I said, a lot of times the sum that you go and apply will not give you the meaningful result. The rule 2 will fail most of the time, and you cannot classify this as a measure. So what will you do? You will call that column as a dimension. Getting my point? Yes. So there are only two things here inside this environment, inside this data set, either dimension or a measure. If you can't classify that as a measure, it is always a dimension. Got it? We will not go other way around. So we will not go and say, hey, that's a text value there, and I cannot start classifying that as a measure, right? So we will not go from this side to this side. There is no way we go from dimension and classify something as measure. No, we'll always go do this. If it is not a measure, it is always a dimension. And dimensions are very specific, very simple, right? Text, descriptive value, categorical data, those are all going to be dimensions. So there is no point I will go from here to here, okay? So we'll only go and say if it is not a measure, it is always a dimension. Is this definition clear? Can I get a yes from all of you before I go and give you some examples and then showcase, and we'll just define these things as a measure or not, okay? Can I get a yes? Just put it in the chat box if you can. Let me know so that I move forward. Yes, everyone? Clear? Good. Thank you for that. Good. All right. I'm going to show you these definitions, especially I want you to classify something that I show you as a measure or not. Like I said, rule 2 will fail. If it fails, classify that as a dimension. Okay. Don't give me any wrong answers, but it's okay to start with any wrong answers, but think twice before you answer my question. Okay. I'm going to hide some columns here. I'll go and show you a simple column. I want you to just look for that column and decide whether it's a measure or not. Okay. So let's try this. I'm just going to hide all of these columns. You have the definition in front of you, the measures definition. Just to take a look at it. Think twice before you give me the answer. Don't look at anyone else's answer. Okay. Think and tell me the answer. All right. Have a look. What is row ID? Is it a measure or a dimension? Let me know. What is row ID column? Is it a measure or a dimension? A lot of you say dimension, measure, dimension, measure. All sorts of answers. There are only two possibility. Yeah. Dimension and measure. I'm getting everything. Okay, good. Come on. One last chance. Let's see. Again, I want you to type this answer again. Everyone who has typed it, type it again and tell me whether you want to stick with your own answer or you want to change your mind and give me a different answer. That's fine. One more time. Dimensions or measure. What is this? Come on, guys. I want you to get this right. Very, very easy one. Dimension. Okay. You stick to that same thing. Okay. Everyone else, please post your answers. Okay. You have changed your answer. Very good. Hemant. All right. What else? What is it? Come on, guys. Dimensions or measure? Dimension or a measure? What is this? Like I said, mirage. Don't just look at the number and call that as a measure. You have to go with rule 2. What does rule 2 say? I want you to think a little. That's why I said. What is it? Come on, guys. All right, let's do this. Have a look. So I told you the numbers can deceive you. The numbers will say anything and everything, and you'll just go ahead and fall for the trap. Let's go ahead and classify this as a measure. And if it is not a measure, it's a dimension. Yes, of course. Yes. So what is this? Row ID. Very good. It's a number field. What kind of a number? It's a whole number. It's an integer. Very good. So rule number one, passed. Good. My question now is, can you apply a sum function on top of it? And I told you just to go by the sum function, right? I did not give you anything else. The rules are rules. Yes, you will have to follow that very strictly. So I gave you a sum function to be applied on top of this particular column. And I want you to check whether that is a meaningful result or not. So what is this? It's a row ID. Yes, very good. It gives me this big sum. Okay, this is the sum total that I see here. Now tell me, is this a meaningful value or not? If I add all my row IDs, is this a meaningful result or not? Yes or no? Everyone, please participate. Yes or no? Everyone, please let me know. You're getting my point? Is there a meaning behind the row ID being summed up? And can I be proud of this number? I got this big number. It can be any big number. Let it be. Does that make sense of adding all of that number and getting to that big total? No. Let's say you have Aadhaar card numbers. Yes, everyone is here from India, or if you're from US or somewhere else, SSN number, let's say, for example. Or let's take your phone number, 10-digit number. Let's say you have 10-digit numbers of all the users in India, phone numbers, okay? And you're just going ahead and saying it's a measure. Is it a measure? You can't go and add those numbers and you can't be proud of those numbers. Getting my point? Your Aadhaar card numbers, your credit card numbers, your SSN, anything of that sort, the student ID, let's say it's all numbers, employee ID. You can't go and add all of those details and be proud of the big number that you're getting, right? What will you do with this total? How is this total useful for you? This is of no use, all right? So the sum on top of this particular detail is not so meaningful, and hence rule 2 will fail here. Getting it? Yes, it's a number, it's an integer that alone does not define a measure here. That's why I gave you rule 2 for you to go and apply that and kind of remember if that works that way or not. So sum of this row ID is not meaningful. So this is not a measure. Rule 2 has failed. It's not a measure. So what is this? You have to call this as a dimension. Getting it? Yes. This is the exact same mistake that your tool will make. Your tool will tomorrow go and give you a sum total of row ID. Will you accept it or not? Will you be able to go and work with that information? No. Okay. So don't let the tool make these mistakes. This is where you have to pitch in and you'll have to go and stop the tool from doing this. Okay, good. One last thing and we'll wrap up this session. Give me 1 more minute. Okay, that's it. Sorry for this delay. Let's go and do an unhide of all of this. My question now is, what is, and I'm not going to show you the rule. It is a simple question. What is postal code? Let me know. Measure or a dimension? What is postal code? You just have to remember one thing. Can this be summed or not? Summation on top of this will give you a meaningful result or not. If yes, it's a measure. If no, it's a dimension. What is it? I don't want anyone to get wrong this time. Everyone, please post your answer here. I'm seeing only dimensions. Very good. What is it? Everyone. It's a dimension. Clear? I cannot add postal codes. I cannot add Aadhaar card numbers, credit card numbers, debit card numbers. You can't go and even add CVV pin, right? You have those things in your behind the card. Phone number, employee ID, student ID, postal code. You can't add all of these numbers. They don't make sense, right? So these are all going to be called as dimension. They're all going to be classified as a dimension. Clear, everyone? Yes, getting this? Very important. When I go and load this data tomorrow, just remind me one more time if I forget it. I'll show you how these tools are going to be treating these columns. And you may be careful in how they are going to be aggregating this, because it's going to be very difficult if they just go and sum up your postal code. No point in having that there, right? So imagine that kind of a blunder going on in your report, and you will be kind of held responsible. You'll be the one where the finger points. So be very careful. Don't make those mistakes there. Good. One last thing. So we talked about the descriptive values. We talked about the row ID and other things, numbers, measures, dimensions, all that. Good. We have not decided on the dates. What are dates now? Dimensions or measure? Again, just do this one last time. What are dates? Even if I have date parts, year, month, quarter, week, whatever that is. What is date? Is it a dimension or a measure? Be confident, okay? I want you to be confident. What is this dimension? Yes, very good. Okay. Let's say I have a year. I have a column called as year. I have 2015, 2016, 2017, and something like that. Can I go and add all of these numbers and be proud of it? Yes or no? No. Again, I can't be just, adding these numbers. So obviously, you cannot go and have these numbers added. Okay. And that's why we will call dates as dimensions. Even if there are date parts coming out, year, month, quarter, whatever that number is, you cannot still go and add it. Those are all going to be dimensions, no measures. Okay. Dates are dimension. D for date, D for dimension. D for description, D for dimension. Okay. Anything that is not aggregatable, dimension. Anything that can be summed up, measure. Simple classification. That's all you have to do. Okay. Got it? All right, good. So if you have not understood this, I want you to revisit this recording tomorrow and then come back so that we have this discussion tomorrow as well. If you want, we can just go through that. Otherwise, I'll show you how when you take this data into the tool, how will the tool treat it, and we'll just see how that goes. Okay, good. So keep all of this in mind, and you have the recordings here. I'll just go ahead and give you this explanation as a separate file, maybe. I'll just put that in the share path, and you can just take a look at it. Okay. But that's our idea for today, dimensions and measures. From tomorrow again, I'll not go through any slides or anything of that sort. We'll jump right into the tool itself and then we'll work with the tool. Okay, clear? Any questions before we close? I'm done for the day. Just let me know. Any questions before we close? Yes, please.
Like I got a question on measure, like when you give one statement like a definition, so you can note it on measure, like
In the measure, you're saying, is it?
yeah.
You're not understanding the measure, you're saying this one?
No,
Yeah.
no, we understand. I understand the measure. Like I
Okay.
need just one a definition like statement on this. Like we have two rules, numerical value and
Yeah,
some.
so see, I'm not going by a bookish definition. The bookish definition will say any field that you can quantify is called as a measure. Okay. So if you just go with that definition, you'll never understand. So what I done here is I'm giving you a simplified way of looking at a column and then deciding what is what. I mean, if it is a measure or not. So this is not a generic way of doing things in a bookish fashion. So what I'm saying here is this is just for you to classify your data in a proper way. Okay. I'm just doing this myself. I'm just kind of coming up with these rules just so that you can define this properly. But yeah, I'll give you those bookish definition. I'll just give that as a notes. You can go and look at that and you can come back if you have any questions. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. All right. What else, guys? Any other questions? All right. If there are no questions, I think we can wrap up. I know that this session is a little late in night. I know we used to have a lot of US folks and everyone who joins here. I'm not sure if anyone is from US or not, but yeah, we'll stick to this timing. I'll try to reduce this timing to some extent so that it's not too late for you. But yeah, here and there that can get extended. Sorry for that. All right. I don't see any questions coming. So if there are no questions, I think we can wrap up. I'll take up some questions tomorrow. The first thing that I'll do is do that. So just revisit all of this details. Come back tomorrow. If you have any questions, do let me know. Okay. Yeah. All right. Thanks everyone for your time. I'll talk to you tomorrow then. Bye bye. See you. Have a good day. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you.